Welcome to Hemp Foundation TALKS, where we listen to the heartbeats of the hemp industry and learn the celebrations, challenges, and discoveries from hemp leaders and advocates from around the world. Hi, I'm Rebecca, International Business Officer with the Hemp Foundation, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Zev Paiss. Zev serves as Chief Operating Officer of Abraham Paiss and Associates. He has been a sustainability consultant for over 30 years in renewable energy, low carbon transportation, urban agriculture, and intentional communities. Zev's involvement with industrial hemp began in late 2012, when he created the Rocky Mountain Hemp Association, which expanded its scope to become the National Hemp Association, where he served as executive director from 2013 to 2016. In 2017, Zev founded Herbalites, one of the first U.S. smokable and edible hemp distributors in the nation, and worked closely with retail outlets to include Herbalite products on their shelves. Over the past 10 years, Zev has written extensively to educate about the U.S. supply chain and given dozens of public presentations at regional and national conferences. In his consulting work, Zev helps connect clients to vetted professionals in the U.S. hemp industry. He also serves as a subject matter expert to farmers, processors, hemp organizations, insurance companies, and law firms needing assistance in representing their clients in legal matters. In 2020, Zev was elected to chair the Hemp Industries Association Fiber and Hurd Council, a working group to accelerate the development of this sector of the hemp industry. Zev lives in Boulder, Colorado, with his wife and 2 daughters. Welcome, Zev.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good to be here.
Wow. So now that's been a long list of experiences we have there. And it's just an honor to have you here and to share your expertise. So just to start off, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your passion and why did you get into the hemp industry in the first place?
Glad to. So as you mentioned in the introduction, my background is really sustainability. My educational degrees are biology and environmental planning. So I've kind of always been thinking and involved with ways to do things more sustainably. So I've known about hemp for quite a while, since 2012 when it became legal for farmers to grow it here. I really jumped into it full on, hoping to assist with the marketing and kind of community building aspect of the industry. And since there wasn't really any infrastructure yet, that was when I created first the Rocky Mountain Hemp Association, and then that got converted into the National Hemp Association the next year.
Wow. So from just being involved in these associations and community, what have you noticed as far as some of the challenges that we've encountered over the past years, and then even looking forward, what have we overcome and what do we have to look forward to?
Well, I think anybody that gets involved in the hemp industry or is already involved realizes it's still extremely new. I mean, this will be the 4th year after federal legalization in 2018. So it's still a very, very young industry. And there's good things about that and challenging things about that. I mean, one is it's pretty much a wide open opportunity for anybody that wants to get involved in the industry, because so much hasn't been decided yet. A lot of things the standards are pretty minor at this point. Just the whole regulation piece is so new that there's a lot of needs there. The challenge is that there's a need for a lot of education, because a lot of people just don't understand. They don't necessarily even understand the difference between hemp and marijuana. And when you go to someone and asking if they want to carry hemp shirts, sometimes their concern is something as wild as, oh gosh, if it burns down, are we all going to get high? I mean, so it really is, it's an ongoing education process. And a lot of what I've done with both the National Hemp Association and the work with HIA and the Raw Marketplace, which was the first online buyer-seller platform, which is still happening, is really educating everybody, both producers and processors and consumers, all about this amazing plant.
Right. So what have been some of your favorite wins or successes?
Well, I mean, obviously, one of the big ones was making it making it legal at the federal level, and by wrapping the Hemp Farming Act into the Farm Bill, the 2018 Farm Bill, it became legal to grow pretty much in any state for the most part. But that in and of itself brings on new challenges, because as soon as it becomes federally legal, then groups like the USDA needed to come in and figure out how are they going to oversee the growing and testing of this crop. And it took them several years. It wasn't just until last year that they came out with their final rule, well, the final for the moment rule. And like the FDA, we are still waiting for them to give feedback around what's appropriate dosage or labeling, any kind of cautionary tales that they want to put on to this for any company to put it in a food or drink. And they still have not given us any real official guidance on that. So that's holding the industry back until they come up with some real clarified guidance.
Right. So where would you like to see, the industry, in the next 3 to 5 years, or what would your best suggestions be as far as how do we move forward, even with, the legal aspect as well?
Sure. Anybody that knows a little bit about the hemp industry is probably familiar with things like CBD. And that was the first kind of family of products that was made that got out to the consumer. There's a supply chain, but again, because the FDA is not helping us in terms of clarifying it, it's not going to grow incredibly fast until that happens. So what has happened in the industry is a pivot back to the more industrial varieties of hemp and the products that come essentially from different parts of the stalk. Right. So that'd be the fiber, and that's where ultimately we get clothing. The hurd, the inside portion of it, has been used for many, many different things, but animal bedding would probably be one of the easiest products because it takes no processing. And there's even industries out there that are emerging that are using the entire stalk, either grinding it all up and turning it into some kind of a pulp that allows them to make paper out of it. It's a whole variety of paper products, or using the entire stalk. There's a company in Kentucky that's actually using it, pressing it, and making flooring out of it, kind of like bamboo flooring. Awesome. So we're starting. I think the thing that I'm so excited about is the level of innovation that we're seeing constantly. So there's new products that are being created ongoingly, and then we have to figure out how do we get them into the consumer's hands, both in quality and in pricing.
So do you help any specific niche, or you consult kind of on a broad space with getting hemp into the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, over the past 10 years, I have consulted on many different aspects of the industry, really depending on where the interest was or where the need was. I work with a lot of individuals and farmers and companies who are trying to get into the hemp space. And a lot of the challenge is because it is so diverse, they often don't really know where to start. And so a lot of the work that I do, it's almost like working with a potential investor to really understand their expectations, their needs, their skill set, their timing, all of those things. But because of the kind of my wide background in my involvement, I really can give guidance in a lot of different areas. But like I said earlier, it is starting to shift more toward the fiber and hurd, more of the industrial applications, animal feed, food, things like that. And that ultimately is going to be a larger segment of the industry because there are so many different product families that can come out of that, where the CBD is for the most part in the health and body care sector. And there will be a lot of products there, but it is just those two sectors.
Right, right. So what are you guys doing as an organization with the Hemp Industries Association, the Fiber and Hurd Council? What are some of the main goals moving forward?
Sure. The HIA has set up fairly recently, just in the past year, 3 different councils. So one is the Cannabinoid Council, and that deals with all the things that we were talking about around the different healthcare or body care products that would use cannabinoids, and a lot of the issues around that, things like some of the new minors, like D8 and D10, and another one called HHC, and who knows whatever else the wizards of chemistry can come up with. But the whole idea is that's a whole category itself. Then there's also the seed and grain council, which focuses on things like food and grain and issues around seeds and genetics and things like that. And then the Fiber and Hurd Council is just beginning. We've had 2 meetings so far. We meet monthly, and we're just kind of bringing ourselves together and beginning to put together a list of needs, people who are in the industry. And these are everywhere from farmers to harvesters to processors to manufacturers to finished product manufacturers. We're trying to bring together representatives from the entire supply chain and understand really what are the challenges for them, and how can we as an organization support accelerating this sector of the industry.
Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to get involved or to utilize, your resource, how would they go about doing that?
Well, in terms of the Fiber and Hurd Council, definitely become a member of the HIA, and it starts off very inexpensive for individuals or farmers, and then businesses have a variety of different levels depending on what they want, and that'll get you plugged into the whole network of members and people who are involved in the organization. There's a lot of educational resources, but mostly it's being connected to the other people in the industry to figure out who can collaborate with one another, who's got new ideas, who's got solutions for things that we've been struggling with. So becoming a member of HIA. And then for me directly, just contacting me directly is certainly a way. I'm happy to talk with people about what their interests are, what their challenges are. And since I act as a consultant, I do that kind of work on a daily basis.
That's good to know. So, what are your opinions on the market and the future market in hemp?
Well, as I said, it's still very, very new. You'll often hear people talk about 25,000 products or 50,000 products that can be made from hemp, and that's true. But there's still a very small number of products that have kind of made it all the way through. The supply chain is developed and it's flowing smoothly, and the price on the shelf is competitive with something it's going to replace. So, like for example, one of the real popular things is animal bedding, and you can buy hemp hurd, the inner part of the stalk. You can buy it in bales of like 30-pound bales, but it's a lot of large animal owners will use like pine shavings, other kind of wood products as their bedding, and hemp is more expensive. Now, it has other advantages. It's more absorbent, it's antifungal, it doesn't have dust, so there's a lot of advantages to it. But again, you need to educate the people who are buying the other products as to why it would make sense to do, to replace that with hemp. And that's going to be true with every product down the line. I'm working with a company right now where I'm giving them samples of spent biomass. So this is the flower and leaf that has already been extracted. All the oils have been extracted, and you have leftover material, a lot of it. And I'm talking with a number of different companies, but one is looking at possibly adding it into a kitty litter that they make, 30,000 pounds of it a month, to add it in for its absorptivity benefits, as well as the smell, and a variety of things that can actually make the kitty litter not only a better market, but it actually works better.
Right. Awesome. And I think that that's a good way to get it into the marketplace, is how can we put it into the small things too that we already have out there, and show and educate, like you're saying, what are the additional benefits, so the end consumer knows, and then we can get it into the marketplace even in a broader sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a growing number of products that has some hemp in it.
Right.
So like maybe 10% or 20% or 25. Now paper, there is hemp paper out there. Most of it's about 25% hemp, and the rest is either virgin pulp or recycled cellulose, recycled paper. So I think over time, we're going to start to see more and more of that as the price differential shrinks and people start to see the benefits of it, not cutting down trees for those purposes. And just taking advantage of what hemp brings to the table.
So I think that sounds like a very wise approach. Infiltrate it into the market in any way that we can, in little ways too, that could be very beneficial. Is there any other advice that you have for other hemp entrepreneurs out there that are trying to get into the space?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's thinking of getting into the space, you need to do your own homework, because there are so many different ways to do that. So depending on who you are and what your skill set is, what your budget is, what your time frame is, you need to do some research to get a sense of what makes most sense for you to actually jump in. And it may be something where you are hooking up with or getting involved with a company that's already doing something, or maybe they're doing something else and they may be open to including some hemp product into something they're doing. You don't necessarily need to start your own company. But the other piece that's important is you really need to understand the supply chain. So let's say you're going to make, I'll just make it easy. Let's say you're going to make hemp t-shirts. You need to talk to buyers and find out who's interested, how many they would buy, what price they would pay, so you can begin to understand whether or not what you're setting up is going to be economically viable. And it's also true going the other direction, where if you're thinking of getting, let's say, hemp seeds, like behind me, you get hemp seeds for food, you need to establish a relationship or several relationships with farmers who are growing hemp and figure out exactly what you can get from them, how much, when, what prices, what condition, things like that. So understanding the both sides of your company, the supply that you're going to need and the finished products that you're going to sell. And for farmers out there, there's a lot of farmers who are willing to just grow hemp, well, more so at the very beginning. Now, our advice really is don't plant anything until you have a buyer. And it doesn't mean that they have to have given you paid for it ahead of time, but you want to make sure you've got some kind of an agreement that if you can provide them the specs that they need, the quality and the quantity and the timing and all of that, that they will purchase from you. And that's how it works in all other commodities, all other agricultural commodities, is that the farmers know where their plants are going before those seeds even get in the ground.
Do you think, because hemp has become more of a talked about or popular thing, a lot of people were trying to get onto the bandwagon and then didn't have a buyer, and we had a lot of waste? Or is that where part of that advice is coming from as well? I mean, besides just everybody should do their due diligence and market research, right?
Yeah, easier said than done, but definitely farmers were growing. We were tripling or quadrupling the amount of hemp we were growing every year from 2015 all the way up to 2019. So in 2019, we finally grew too much hemp for the market. Now, we were all assuming that the market would continue to grow, but again, because the FDA hasn't done anything, it couldn't grow that next step. So we had a serious overabundance of hemp, especially CBD related hemp, in 2019. And that caused the market to crash. The prices went down 75, 80% because there was just so much of it. So most of that just got stored away. And some of that is now being recouped and used slowly but surely. But especially for the CBD buyers, hemp sitting around for 1 or 2 years definitely loses some of its value, loses some of its the level of CBD in there. So it's something that we're just beginning to build back up with again now.
So you think we're on the upswing now?
We are definitely on the upswing, but it may not be so much on the CBD side or any of the minor cannabinoids. I don't know how many of your listeners know, but there's actually like over 105 different cannabinoids, and we're only really focused on about a dozen of them. So there's a lot more out there that we have to learn. Most of them are in very, very small quantities in the plant. So that's where like D8 is normal in the plant, but it's so small that nobody really took advantage of it until the chemists figured out you can make D8 from CBD. So a lot of the leftover CBD, especially the isolate, was then taken through a process to convert it into D8, and now it's been selling over the last year and a half as a pretty robust market.
So what about the rest of the plant? For those who are harvesting it mostly for CBD, can we utilize the rest of the plant for other purposes?
There's certainly people who are working on making that happen. The kind of plant that is grown for fiber and hurd is what we call kind of a palm tree. It's really tall and slender with flowers at the top, where the CBD plant is more like a Christmas tree, where it's like a bush. And the stalks are very thick and hard. So what the technology that we don't really have figured out very well is how to decorticate, which is to take the fiber, separate the fiber from the hurd on those CBD type plants. One of the things I had mentioned before was a company that was going to be pulping hemp and grinding up the whole plant and then basically turning it into pulp for different kinds of products. They could use those kind of CBD stalks, but there's not a lot of uses yet for that. So it's still somewhat separated. And for a lot of people, we're saying just grind it up and put it back into your soil or turn it into some kind of a compost, add it into a compost. So we're trying to figure out ways to use the entire plant, but it takes time to figure out, what the process is that makes sense and who the buyers would be. Right.
Well, man, thank you, Zev. You're a wealth of information. And I really appreciate your time and with today with us on Hemp Foundation Talks. And it's been a pleasure. And we look forward to staying in touch and for your continued success and for the continued success of the market, in whole. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Rebecca, and good luck with the Hemp Foundation. And if I can be of assistance moving forward, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Hemp Foundation Talks. Hemp Foundation is a nonprofit social enterprise on a mission to provide solutions for our current ecological crisis. Hemp Foundation and their brand Uki has created a value chain from village farms to the marketplace. Utilizing the many benefits of hemp to overcome deforestation, fight plastic pollution, and support regenerative practices to heal our earth. The foundation supports over 250 small village farmers in the Indian Himalayan region. In addition, they employ widows and women in the production of over 500 hemp products for the marketplace, from clothing to food to hemp bags, a large range of textiles, embroidered fabrics, home goods, and even hemp bioplastic. To learn more, visit hempfoundation.net.